remind me, who's secretary? Ms. Rector, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Gore.
Aye. Here.
Trombley.
Here.
Ms. McCormick.
Here.
Mr. Potter.
Here.
Mr. Mahoney.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Okay, moving on to item 5, approval of the minutes from May 18, 2026.
Make a motion we approve the minutes as submitted.
I'll support.
Okay, Mr. Potter supports. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed. Okay, moving on to new business. Item 6A, I'd like to entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed. Okay, Ms. Rector, do you want to go on with the description we're doing?
The applicant is Emma 44 Development, LLC, 5525 Schultz Drive, Sylvania, Ohio. Variance location is 7058 Douglas Road, Lambertville, Michigan, 48144. Authorized representative is Anthony Rusco, 8160 Secor Road, on parcel number 5802-430-02700, located within the McLean Shelton Park subdivision, C1 local commercial. And this first request is for an interpretation of the ordinance language of section 41101, number 7A through H, principal uses permitted, restaurants or other places serving food or beverages to permit with an ancillary outdoor activity use. This request is for an interpretation of the ordinance language for proposed use within a C1 local business district. The interpretation that the proposed use per section 41101, number 7, principal uses permitted, restaurants or other places serving food or beverages, except those having the character of a drive-in, including seasonal outdoor dining areas as an accessory to restaurants. The request by the applicant and the agent. Section 3, and this is referring to the proposed letter from the agent. Applicant states where the use fits within the ordinance, section 41101.7, restaurants or other places serving food or beverages except those having the character of a drive-in. The applicant proposes to use the property as a small private meeting and gathering space. The contemplated activities include private meetings, business-related functions, customer gatherings, professional networking activities, private celebrations, administrative functions, coordination activities for the applicants or other business ventures, and similar lawful commercial and private uses. Food and beverages may be brought onto the premises by customers, guests, or third-party caterers. The applicant does not intend to prepare food on site, operate a commercial kitchen, or conduct restaurant-style meal service. The applicant also does not intend to sell, furnish, or provide alcohol, operate a bar, or conduct bartending or alcohol service operations. Customers may independently bring alcohol onto the property for lawful private consumption in connection with private gatherings. Customer-owned beverages may occasionally be temporarily stored in coolers and in refrigeration areas along the premises as incidental accommodations associated with private gatherings, but the owner and operator will not engage in alcohol sales, bar operations, or organized alcohol service activities. Keep in mind, the agent will get an opportunity. I condensed his letter to not make my analysis very lengthy, just to give the interpretation of the township. Planning and Building Department's interpretation for the proposed use is in reviewing the information provided in the submitted letter. The interpretation provided to the agent from the Planning and Building Departments is that the proposed use would be defined and permitted in a C1 local business district with special approval use as a banquet hall. Per section 40201, principal use is the main use to which the premises are devoted and the principal purpose for which the premises exist. Interpretation is presented by the applicant of different types of principal uses, the Planning and Building Departments. Interpretation of the use being a banquet hall where no outdoor accessory ancillary use would be permitted. The interpretation made in this principal uses are that of a commercial service establishment. Under a banquet hall use, per section 40201 in definitions, a banquet hall is a commercial service establishment for the purpose of catering banquets, weddings, receptions, and similar functions for which food and beverages are prepared and served on the premises, but not including a catering establishment. Principal uses permitted subject to the special approval in banquet halls are subject to the following, And the site meets all of those, except the use shall be conducted entirely within the building. Therefore, the planning and building departments have interpreted the proposed principal uses provided by the applicant's language as a commercial service establishment for the purpose of similar functions as listed above and within the application, for which food and beverages are prepared and served on the premises as an ancillary use and not as a principal use of the restaurant or other places serving food and beverages. Banquet halls are permitted with special approval and subject to conditions. Therefore, per 400.1102(1)B, the use shall be conducted entirely within the building. Therefore, no outdoor dining, seating area as an ancillary use would be permitted. A motion of the interpretation of the proposed use shall be made before moving forward with the interpretation of the outdoor dining, seating ancillary use. And should the board determine the interpretation as presented by the agent, the proposed uses are similar in nature as stated in 411.01, number 7, principal uses permitted, other places serving food or beverages, the board shall then discuss and make a determination on the interpretation of item number 2. So I'm going to stop there until the board has some further discussion.
Is the applicant or representative here? Would you like to step up to the podium? Is there anything you'd like to add? Oh, and tell us who you are. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, before the applicant speaks, I'm going to let, if we could have Mr. Goldsmith speak on the process of why it's here at the board for the public.
Fair enough.
So most of you haven't dealt with an interpretation before. Usually what we see are dimensional variances. So the question is this matter properly before the Board of Zoning Appeals? The answer to that question is yes, it is. It's provided for in the Michigan Zoning and Enabling Act, MCL 125.3603, spells out some of the powers that a Board of Zoning Appeals has. And that section of the Zoning Enabling Act states that the Zoning Board of Appeals shall hear and decide questions that arise in the administration of the zoning ordinance. It goes on to say, it shall hear and decide appeals from and review any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination made by an administrative official or body charged with enforcement of a zoning ordinance adopted under this act. Our ordinance has similar language that's pretty much adopted from the Zoning Enabling Act, and that provides for an administrative review and interpretation as well. So this matter is properly before you to interpret the zoning ordinance to determine whether, as a board, to determine whether our planning department, our planning director, Jody, along with our building official, Dennis Kohler, provided an interpretation to the applicant, to their attorney, Tony Breskel. Mr. Breskel, on behalf of the applicant, has a different interpretation, and that forms the basis of the appeal on behalf of his client. I'm going to distill it down to a very simple analysis here for you. And Tony's going to expand upon this, and Jody already did. But what the applicant wants and what the applicant believes the zoning ordinance provides for is this facility should be interpreted by the board. This is their argument, that it is a restaurant or other place serving food or beverage. So it's not a restaurant, and they concede that. It doesn't meet the traditional definition of a restaurant. What they're focusing in on in our zoning ordinance, or other place serving food or beverage. Why do they want that? Because that's a principal permitted use, and that provides for the ancillary outdoor activity to a principal permitted use. I think that's what their goal, what their objective is, and the outdoor activity has certain limitations on it imposed by the ordinance. After reviewing the information that was provided by the applicant, Jody and Dennis looked at this and based on their knowledge of our zoning ordinances, no, we don't believe it fits within restaurant or other places serving food or beverages. What we believe is that this more appropriately fits as a banquet hall, and a banquet hall requires special use approval. So there's another step involved to get to where the applicant would want to be. But unfortunately for the applicant, if you adopt that interpretation, the banquet hall interpretation doesn't provide for the ancillary outdoor use. It all has to be conducted within an enclosed structure, an enclosed building. So I'm trying to simplify this for you. Tony's going to make his presentation, but I thought that might be helpful.
Anything you'd like to add?
Thank you. Tony Bruskel. I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant. In this instance, it's the property owner, Emma 44 Development LLC. Phil's exactly right, and Jody did a wonderful job summarizing a 10-page letter that you guys maybe didn't have to go through line by line, and I appreciate you doing that. Thank you. This is a real narrow issue, and Phil did a great job summarizing not just why we're asking for the interpretation, but the kind of the practical effect of what our interpretation would lead to. And I want to kind of work a little bit backwards here. We don't fit purely or squarely within any of these categories just because of the nature of what this is. It's a private event space. If I could compare it to something, I'd compare it to something that doesn't really exist from a private standpoint, which would be like a municipal park building that you would do a birthday party or something over at Car Park Hall or whatever that would be. But we don't have those privately in Bedford Township. But that's kind of how we envision the space being used. People reserve it. People go and host an activity. It could be a birthday party. It could be a graduation party. It could be a event for a class or a group of athletes who are having their end of the year event. It could be anything. We're just trying to create a space. But the reason we don't fit into the banquet hall facility is because we're just not preparing any food there. There may not be food there at any time, ever, but we're allowing people to bring food in if they want to. We're allowing people to cater food if they want to. We're just not providing it. We have no intention of having a liquor license or anything of that nature. But where we get back to the analysis by the attorney is, we want to have this outdoor accessory use to our principal indoor use. And just so I want to make it real clear what it is, and if you haven't seen any photographs, the outdoor accessory use is just the ability to go outside and sit around in some chairs around some propane fire pits. And there's a 20 by 30, I think it was 20 by 30 area with some picnic tables on it that has a temporary structure over it to prevent rain from coming down on you. So what we envision, why is this relevant to have an outdoor accessory use? We envision people gathering inside, doing whatever it is they came to do there, whether it be a business meeting or a party or whatever it was, but having the ability to walk outside, get fresh air, sit, mingle out there, but that isn't the principal permitted use. That's not why we want this building. We just want to have access to the outdoor environment as well. We do have this space. I haven't been there in a week or two or a couple of weeks since I presented this information. I think there is now a split rail fence there. I don't know if anybody's had an opportunity to drive by it. Okay, so what the ordinance actually allows for, if my interpretation or our interpretation were to be adopted, it allows for us to have this outdoor space. And because we want to submit to all the restrictions that you may have, specifically, I'm just asking to submit to the restrictions set forth in Section 7, which would just be hours of operation, specifically under H. It would exempt us from a 6-foot hard barrier and the plantings that would go around that are set forth in Section C, because we have no intention on being open for business past 10 p.m. We have no intention of having a wait staff serve customers seated in the outdoor area, and we're not going to serve alcohol, and we're willing to sign or endorse whatever document necessary under your ordinance to acknowledge that. So we felt that with this particular use, because there may be food present, there's going to be beverages present in the sense of a soft serve beverage dispenser inside the unit. You can have Coke products or whatever it is. We didn't know exactly where we fit, but this language of other places serving food and beverages just welcomed us into that particular category and offered us the ancillary use that we were looking for. I look at this, because we're not seeking a rezoning, we're not looking to have some grand event place where you can turn up the music outside or do anything like that. We're not providing any kind of amplification to music. I can't guarantee that people won't bring some sort of sound bar and have their own phone-generated music or something like that, but we're not offering any of that. And we are giving a strict set of instructions that we need to comply, any customer would need to comply with any of our noise ordinances. We're not asking to be exempt from anything that anybody else has to adhere to. We want to have hours of operation that are reasonable. We would never be closed past 10. We want to be the friendliest noise neighbor there could be. We just want to have the ability to conduct the lawful activities inside and be able to come outside, get fresh air, and use it as casually as people would do. I sort of envision situations where maybe you're at a gathering with family members or extended family members, and it's time to get away from a sibling or an in-law, and you want to go outside and hang out. I don't know what their use is going to be, but we want to be able to use that outdoor space because it's been nicely done. It looks, right now, the entire facility, I'm a Bedford resident also, and the entire facility looks better than it's ever looked, certainly in the most recent years, from front to back, inside and out. So we're hoping that this interpretation under the principal permitted use instead of the banquet hall facility interpretation that we received will be the best fit and both work best for the township because you guys have the ability to impose reasonable restrictions, which we're asking you to do, and also be the most reasonable approach for the applicant to use the space to its fullest extent as an event space on the inside and then have this ancillary use outside. That's where we see this thing going. I'd prefer to kind of open the door to some questions before I kind of rattle on about any bullet points that I had presented. I mean, I've hit the main topics that I
Okay,
wanted you to hear.
so what we'll do is invite anybody from the public to step up and speak your
Do we
piece.
need to close the public hearing
No,
first
it's
before
still
the-
open.
Okay.
Anybody in the public like to come up and speak?
Yeah, that's fine. Just gonna close this and leave it here. Just leave it myself.
Gail from Temperance. Okay, so this is the way I'm looking at this. First off, nothing was mentioned about food trucks. The owner is not doing anything, and that means there's no control. You can say what you want to say, but there's no guarantee. So unless he's going to come by and do some checks, there's a complete lack of control. They can bring in their kegs of beer. They can bring in all the food that they want. They can be indoors and outdoors. At 10 o'clock, is he going to come by and make sure it's all locked up and put away? Talks about fire pits. There's fire code. They can only be 25 feet from any structure, and that includes any kind of fencing even. So a row of trees, anything like that, you've got to be at least 25 feet away from. It looks pretty. It's just like what they have at Summerfield and Secor, but that's a commercial district. So if he's sited by residential on all three sides and a church across the street, even though they're not serving alcohol, it's going to be there if somebody happens to bring it in. So that's the concern, that there isn't any control. The owner's not serving. He's just allowing people to use this building as they see fit. The banquet hall, again, I had down here hours of operation. Mr. Bresco mentioned that, he had some hours of operation. So the bottom line is that the owner is not doing any of this. So when you allow something like this to take place, it basically kind of, in my opinion, shuts the doors. It really does make it. If it's a banquet hall, then it should be inside. I wouldn't want it next to my home. I have trouble with my neighbors at 6 o'clock at night if they're drinking and hooting and hollering. So this is the whole concern, is the lack of control. I mean, if he's not allowing or he's not doing, then why would he allow his customers to do it? So I think that that's something that you have to take into consideration. And whatever he's putting in for trees or whatever, you can go to Lowe's and get a 2-foot arborvitae and it'll grow maybe a couple inches each year. So to be in residential, he should, and this is where you guys get to control, if you allow him to do that, is that he needs to put in the mature arbs and make sure they're watered and kept. That business has been a little bit of everything from a tack shop to a weight room to a restaurant or whatever. And you do have your parking and you have to determine what is your frontage. I mean, it's on 2 roads, so what is frontage? Is it your backyard or is it your front yard? And I think there should be a determination in that respect as to what they consider the rear and the front to help you with your decision. But you guys always do a good job, so thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Keen. Anybody else? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Mr. Potter supports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the public hearing on item 1 is closed. Mr. Bresco? Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Bresco?
I'll go ahead and start. So I love the idea because it gives us options in Bedford Township, and this is no different than Car Park and Samaria Park, where we have, and there's no control over those. Nobody goes in and checks if people are out of there or if there's alcohol on the premises or anything like that. And the fact that, let's say graduation season comes up, if you don't have Car Park or Samaria Park booked by January or February, you're not getting one of those options on a weekend, usually. You got to book it early. So I like the options. Tony, do we know what the max capacity of that building is?
We're still in the process of obtaining the life safety plan for this facility, but I can tell you that the max capacity is going to be whatever that is determined by that and whatever the building department says is.
We're not talking
and the
like
fire department says is okay.
wedding reception type capacity.
We've got, my best recollection is 48 marked parking spots out there, maybe a total of 54 possible if we moved into a corner spot that isn't presently striped.
Okay.
So that's the kind of parking that we have available. But what our dilemma was, and we're trying just candidly not to pour a ton of money into this project until we know we've got a green light on the front end here. Our dilemma is because the use is changing from that tack shop, I think, at one point in time, was that the last one? And it's now completely open. The interior is just wide open space. We have to get it reevaluated. So whatever it ends up being is going to be determined by the professionals who are hired to do so.
And it's no different than some other event spaces. I'm sure there's probably going to be no smoking out there, so people usually have to go outside to smoke. So they're going to be out. Some people are going to be outside regardless, front or back. So I like the idea. I'm not having a problem with having something like that, but I do know from years past when it was maybe a restaurant, and this is going way back, we did have some noise issues and we did get some complaints from the neighbors that were behind, so I do know that that is a concern, but we also get noise complaints from several of the establishments that are on the corner of Conseer and Secor Road, especially when they have outdoor music and things like that. We've gotten complaints, so I mean, we just deal with those as they come.
Well, and one of the points that I hadn't gotten to yet, the intended intensity here is going to be so low. When we're talking about how we envision it being used, I'm sure the tenant would love to have it rented 7 days a week, but the reality of that is completely impossible. That's not going to happen. In the best case scenario, if it was available and used 2 days a week by a small event, I think that would be a victory by what we're hoping for from its intensity standpoint. So this is a little different than a restaurant or a bar. Obviously, it would be open daily. You don't need a reservation. You have to reserve this entire space in advance. You can't walk into it. You can't go in and say, I'd like a cold beverage, whether it be alcoholic or not. There's no food in there to be gotten. So the general public simply just isn't welcome on a day-to-day basis unless they've reserved the facility. in advance. So right there, the intensity has been completely reduced down to an in advance type of situation, which greatly reduces the chance of noise problems and everything else. And then we're offering hours of operation that cease at 10 p.m. We're not trying to stay open later. We have found that the best customers, our favorite customers, are the ones who do not want to stay past 10 and simply want to enjoy some gathering time and then go home. So that's what we're trying to offer. We're trying to offer the people who want to have this small event space, who want to have a business meeting on a Tuesday afternoon at lunchtime, but don't have space for 15 or 20 people to gather because the library might be booked, or something like that. Really, all the comparable spaces, I think, are municipal spaces. And so we're just trying to offer this type of event space that can be had with advanced reservations. But number one, you're right, we can't control noise, but we can definitely put a safeguard on it that says we have to adhere to all available ordinances that relate to noise, and we're willing to do so.
Anyone else have a question?
I'll go next.
Mr. Tremblay.
Mr. Bresco, I imagine your client has other facilities like this as well?
Not in Michigan that I'm aware of.
But in other states, he's familiar with this business?
Yes,
Okay.
there are similar facilities that are, I believe, in the Ohio, Lucas County area.
Okay.
That they utilize, yes.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Potter.
Is your client willing to proceed if any use of the outdoor space does not include any drinks or food, meaning they use the outdoor space for...
I heard you, though.
Meaning the client allows the people that rent this facility to use the outdoor space for just sitting and chatting or watching the fire, but no drinking or no eating. Is that a reasonable, is that something that your client could work with?
It's not the intended request. I would say that it's also not what the ordinance that we're asking for you to interpret contemplates. The ordinance that we think we fall within and that we're asking you to interpret us within contemplates outdoor dining. It's specifically spelled out in the permitted use. We think we fall directly and squarely within that permitted use. And I think it would benefit my client and the applicant in the greatest way to have full range use of the outdoor space rather than piecemeal the actual use. And I actually think it's more congruent with the ordinance itself, meaning this ordinance tells us exactly how to handle outdoor dining for a space that was contemplated to serve food or other beverages. I don't think that it's an insurmountable obstacle. It's certainly not ideal, and it's certainly not something that I want to have to go down and discuss with
Okay,
him.
well, I doubt anybody could enforce it anyway, but our planning and building departments have already interpreted it as a banquet hall. That's where your intended facility fits under. So that really doesn't provide for any use of outdoor space besides parking, as I
Understood.
understand it. So,
In one of the, and we've
I
had
mean,
this
the outdoor space does look nice, but that's not how, to me anyway, that's not how the township's leaning.
And I recognize that. We've actually had a very comprehensive meeting about this exact topic. And there are some differing opinions. You know, you can let the two attorneys talk and we'll have differing opinions about definitions and things like that. But one of the things, and maybe one of the reasons that it brought us to this exact event tonight is that in a banquet facility, under your own definitions, not mine, a banquet facility has food prepared on site. It contemplates a kitchen operating in the back and food being prepared. That is the definition of a banquet facility under the Bedford Township ordinance. And we are not that. So we do not fall squarely within that definition. And so because of that, I felt the smoothest transition to have a principal permitted use without any type of special approval was under Section 7 of 400-1101. And we are somebody who's going to have, at times at least, food and/or beverage, which this was contemplated. Had this not been contemplated, there's no reason to have that additional language in your ordinance. We don't need it. It's superfluous, or however you pronounce the word. We don't need to add language saying serving or other places serving food or beverage if we only intend it to be a traditional restaurant or a traditional banquet hall. I believe this is the exact type of situation that the ordinance contemplated.
So if Mr. Potter's done, I don't want to step.
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Gordon.
So I have to agree with Mr. Bresco when I'm reading it. It's for the banquet hall, it says for which food and beverages are prepared and served on the premises. Food and beverages are not going to be prepared. Are they going to be served? It's probably going to be buffet style where you serve yourself, but they're not bringing in wait staff. Now, if a food truck comes onto the premise and they're preparing food in a food truck, I think that's more of a gray area. It's a separate issue. I would not want food trucks preparing food on there. But when you're coming to a facility, something like this, no different than car park or no different than Samaria, you're bringing your trays of food with you. And your little Bunsen burners on your stuff, you're bringing your pulled pork and your mac and cheese and your beans and all the sides and everything, and you're setting them on tables and letting people go through the line, not being prepared on the site. Also, there's no beverages. You're bringing your own coolers, like the other establishments. We have to bring our own coolers, and we set up our own, here's the cooler full of whatever, and this cooler's full of whatever. So I have to agree, I don't think it fits a banquet hall.
I agree, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
One more question, Mr. Breskel. Is your client entertaining the idea of one-day liquor licenses or anything like that for events?
That's never been brought up to me. And
Okay.
we're specifically not seeking any liquor licenses that I'm aware of.
Not for you, but if one of your tenants wanted to get a one-day liquor license to serve alcohol on premises.
So candidly, that hasn't come up.
Okay.
I haven't, I'd prefer to answer it with knowledge, but I don't have the knowledge on that. I talked with my client about the idea of ever getting a liquor license, serving liquor, having it available, and the answer was, no, I'm not, no, we won't. It's simply not going to be something that we offer. As stated earlier, if a guest or somebody who reserves a place, for a 4-hour block brings a cooler full of beer and they sit and they have beer, that is not something being offered by us. We are not proposing to provide, distribute, or in any way assist in the consumption of alcohol on our end.
Okay.
I'll pipe in. I think whoever wrote this ordinance took great amount of time and attention to detail and tried to think of every possible situation listed in this section of the ordinance. And I just can't get beyond the definition of a banquet hall. When I think of a banquet hall, just in general terms, you rent a hall, you have it catered. It may not be prepared there. I mean, you may heat it up, that's preparation. You could open a pizza box, is that preparation? Knives and forks, is that preparation? What I think that they were trying to impress is that, especially with the restriction on outdoor activity, is just that I don't think anybody's going to be there to regulate what goes on once they get through the door. And I like to assume the best of people, but I think as a lot of townships around Michigan have discovered, short-term rentals have become a big problem. And they're starting to restrict them in a lot of towns. And there's a reason for that. Because people rent it, and nobody's there to tell, hey, you got to quiet down. They just do it. And then they got to come back and try to figure out how to combat that from happening. And now you're seeing more and more townships restrict that type of rental situation. So I see this as just a potential problem. I know what you want to do. I appreciate that you want to use that back facility. And I do commend you guys. You really dressed that place up. It really looks nice. It's not an eyesore anymore. So I guess maybe I ask you and answer in a very succinct manner, how is this not a banquet hall? Don't go by the definition that you read here.
When I think of a banquet hall, the only time I've ever used a banquet hall has been for a wedding reception.
Yeah, so you rented
Never
it,
been to a banquet hall
food
for
was
anything.
brought in.
Where food was prepared on site, the staff worked there, they brought it out to you, they either put up a buffet or they served it to you as a plate. That's the only banquet hall.
They didn't cook it there, though.
Yeah,
They usually
absolutely.
brought it in and put
No,
it
full
under
kitchen in the
Bunsen
back,
burners.
staff bringing it out to you, that's what when I go to Kuzno's and Ida, the food is not brought in, the food is prepared right there on Lewis Avenue in that building and brought from a back room to my table, or a buffet that was set out. That's what I think of, if you're asking
I
my
think
house.
of sidelines, bringing in, trays of kebabs and putting Bunsen burners underneath it. And that's probably what your client is going to do if they rent the hall and want to have food on site.
I think this really presents us with a great opportunity to take care of the concerns that you're actually having, which are the lack of control. You guys are authorized to handle that. And I'm encouraging you. I'm not shying away from restriction. I'm encouraging. Let's come up and brainstorm.
Who's going to be there at 9 o'clock if there's a problem?
Same way we are if there's a problem at any of the other bars and restaurants. The police are going to get called.
He's saying he's not a bar or restaurant.
Doesn't matter. If there's a problem at a backyard barbecue in a subdivision, the police are going to get called.
I mean, if I'm making a casual, oh, sorry, Bob.
The way I see it different from a restaurant or a bar or something like that, the owners are there, or the owners' representatives are there. It's not just the people that came in off the street to party with each other or whatever, or eat with each other. The owner and the owner's representative is there, so there's, I guess it depends upon the attitude of the customer, but there is some sense of control there.
So is
But in
car
a banquet
parking-
hall, or in a banquet hall or some other kind of wedding venue or whatever, I'm renting the building. And the owner gives me a list of stuff I can and cannot do, but
Well, this isn't.
there's nothing
Right, but is
holding me to,
You can't compare the two. It's
Well-
apples and oranges.
the hall at Car Park in Samaria, is that a hall or is that a banquet hall?
on-
When I go in there and rent, say, hey, is Car Park open? Is the facility at Car Park, is that a hall or banquet hall?
what's the difference?
Right,
Well, I
right.
think-
It's the same thing he wants to do.
No, well, I'm guessing half the time they're going to bring in food from his rentals.
I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I know the main objective of this facility is to have these small events. Whether they could include food or not is not our desire. There's not a kitchen on site. We're not going to have a commercial kitchen. There'll only be some sort of refrigeration, I think, like a cooler or a fridge or something there. But I can completely appreciate your concerns. But I think the answer to your question is unfortunately is from my perspective, maybe too simple, which is even though there won't be someone potentially ownership on site at all times, this is no different than a lot of things that we have to deal with in this society. From operating an automobile that has traffic rules around us, if I lease a car, there's no one who owns that car to tell me how to drive it. There's a set of rules that I have to abide by. And we as citizens, at some point in time, just have to follow the rules. We have noise ordinances. We have alcohol rules. We have conduct rules about behaving publicly and disturbing the peace. We have this set of rules that you're concerned about in place. I'm not suggesting that that's the end. I think the end is hopefully we'll be rented by good neighborly people who want to be good citizens to the people around us. But we simply can't control everything through overseeing them with a rule. There just has to be a moment where if somebody catastrophically gets out of line, I'm hopeful that someone within the event space will call the police. But I don't anticipate that in this type of environment. I'm not sure how many calls we get from Cars Park.
Well, it's a park, and I don't know, is there a time limit that you can rent Car Park Hall? Can you rent it till 10 o'clock at night?
I'm not sure of the time.
There's a set of rules that apply when you rent it.
In my opinion, I think this should be, you come in and you assume you're a banquet hall, because that's what you are. We can play semantics with the definition of it, and you should ask for a use variance to use the back. And that'd probably be the more proper way to ask for what you want. And in that situation, we can set up restrictions like a taller fence and,
Well, may I?
Sure.
I mean, if that were the approach, so if the end is going to remain the same where you want to apply some restrictions to how we're going to do it, talking about semantics, it seems like that's all that is. You're just asking me to drive down a different road to get to the same end.
I think this is semantics, what you've requested.
Well,
saying it's
we're
not a
offering the
banquet
same
hall, we're saying
restrictions
it
that
is.
that use variance would grant us. We want you to impose those same restrictions. And I'm not sure it's even an available remedy for me to ask for a use variance. So this was an available remedy. I could ask for a conditional rezoning, which I don't think is appropriate for a situation like this. I think that's an overkill.
You'd have to demonstrate an unnecessary hardship.
And what I have demonstrated is that whoever did write this ordinance, which did a wonderful job, and it is very detailed, we do happen to fall into this permitted use. Not squarely within anything, but we do believe we are serving food, and other places serving food and beverage.
What would be the word you use to define that?
What's that?
What would be the word to define what you're describing?
We are an other place. We are an other place.
What's
serving
the
food or
name of
beverage.
it? Other is nebulous. It's,
I didn't, but it's
I think
what we're dealing with. Unfortunately, we have to use your
Other places
ordinance.
Serving
oh,
food or
I
beverage.
know, I'm
Oh,
asking
I'm sorry.
him.
Well, I don't want to
What
rewrite your ordinance.
How would you define what your business is? If it's not a banquet hall.
I can tell you what I've defined it as if it would help. I can give you our purpose.
I'm curious.
Our proposed use is best understood as a small, private meeting and gathering space where customers may hold private meetings, business functions, customer gatherings, professional networking activities, private celebrations, administrative and coordination activities, which would be the owner's business matters being handled in a single office in the back of the facility on a, once a week type basis. And similar lawful commercial private function, food and beverages may be brought to the premises if desired by the customers or third parties. And
That's a problem with the nebulous definition. You gave me a paragraph describing what your building is. How could anybody write that into the ordinance, allowing what you want to do?
if I was trying to include that in the ordinance,
If we
I'd
were
write
writing the
something like
ordinance
other
today.
places serving food or beverages.
To me, it'd be nice to have, like I said earlier, options. So right now, let's take when we have, I go to a school-related function such as a soccer banquet or something like that. They tried to hold it at one place before, but it was too tight, and I won't name the business. It had a nice area, but it was too small. Then we switched, now we have it at the high school in the cafeteria. Every family member is assigned to you bring the soda, you bring the chips, and the freshmen bring this, and we have a whole array of food set out. It's no different than what you're trying to do, it's just a whole separate building. And the only issue is allowing you to use the outdoor space, if I'm understanding.
That's the only distinction that we're drawing here. And the outdoor space is not our intended principle.
And the outdoor space would be fantastic to have, I mean, there's outdoor space at the parks. I think we're comparing apples to oranges, but if I rent out some area and a bunch of kids come over, they're outside playing on the park while everybody else is inside. So I like the idea. I mean, that place has been vacant for so long. It's been many different businesses over the years. For some reason, none of them are successful or have not been successful. I like having the options. I mean, we can put restrictions on it.
Mr. Potter?
I know having been to both of these facilities this year, my daughter used Car Park for her baby shower. She had it for a certain amount of time on a particular day, and we brought food in, we brought drinks in, and we were only allowed to use the inside of the building. There's nothing, even though the park's next door, it's not part of reserving that building for use. So that's an example of something that's all indoor, whether they call it a banquet hall or what. It's a hall that's available to rent for purposes such as what you're talking about, but you're only renting the inside space. the other place was, I can't think of the owner, it's off of Monroe Road behind or adjacent to Parmley Park. Can't think of the name of the, I don't know if it's a veterans organization or if it's
Civics Club of some sort.
Civics, okay. And it was for a graduation party. They used the inside for the food and beverage and stuff, but they also had some games and stuff set up outside. So there was an example of I guess I'm really not coming to
I
a
think there'd be a
conclusion. I'm not
reasonable
sure why I brought it up,
expectation.
but
If there's a building in a park, they're going to use the park, and people that live around there expect to hear the sounds of noise of kids playing on a swing set or whatever. In a C1 in the smack dab in the middle of a residential area, it's not a reasonable expectation to hear noise coming from the other front yard since there's no backyard here. Ms. Rector, did you have something?
I just wanted to advise the board that Liberty Corners is an overlay district and it has different requirements. So there are different
okay.
rules
all
in
right.
the overlay that allow for different flexibilities.
Okay.
Mr. Goldsmith.
And I just want to, maybe for clarification purposes, because it was mentioned, the applicant could not have approached this requesting a use variance because under our use variances can be given to the Board of Zoning Appeals. But this township has chosen not to. So our Board of Zoning Appeals cannot grant a use variance. So if
It would
it
go in
fit-
front of the board,
yeah,
township board.
yeah. So then you're talking about what Tony was talking about, a conditional rezoning or a rezoning, something along those lines. So you couldn't get to it by way of a use variance. Then also, this is out of the ordinary of what you're usually dealing with, because it's an interpretation of the zoning ordinance. There's no hardship standard to be applied to this. You are being asked actually to interpret the zoning ordinance. What does it mean to you as a board?
Well, I would agree it should go before the township board to approve a use variance. And I think this is kind of a back way of doing that. You know, we're a quasi-judicial organization, but, you know, if it's up to me, I can't approve this. To me, it's a banquet hall. You can rent it, you can do everything you want inside of it. And I know you had plans and you already went to the expense of refurbishing that backyard, but you probably should have got this cleared first before you did that. But I don't know how these folks will vote, though.
I have something.
Ms.
So,
McCormick.
so I guess the proposed use that, I mean, I like the idea of it as well. I do like the space. I mean, I'm having trouble coming to terms with it not being a banquet hall either. So I guess under the proposed use that you're saying, I guess how would you delineate it from other banquet halls that like you would go to? You know, like what's different than?
The main difference is that other banquet halls, traditionally, when you arrive at another banquet hall, you're expecting them to provide all the food and beverage, period. So if I walk into some other facility and I say I'd like to reserve your space for whatever the grand occasion might be, wedding or some big event, graduation party, I have an expectation of walking into that facility and looking at a menu, a banquet menu, and choosing from it, and having it provided to me on site the day of my event. Here, I like the idea that if I choose to have a business conference for my law firm and I can't house it in my space, I have a place I can call. I have a place where I can bring 25 attorneys and have a roundtable discussion about family law. I like the fact that I can bring any sort of children's banquet from a sporting event, which I also have to attend the same banquets, that we have to bring a potluck and provide the food for my graduating senior that I just had. This is not a banquet hall. I would not take my cross-country banquet to Memories. First of all, it doesn't have the sheer scale. It's simply smaller in scale. And it doesn't even come close to the anticipated capacity. I know I don't have the capacity number, but we're going to adhere to whatever the law says it needs to be, but I can tell you, it's not going to be the traditional multi-hundred, 100-plus, capacity. It's just smaller. It's intended for small event space, which I think is newer. We saw it happen previously in the different area, in the commercial node, understandably, over at the yard, I get that. But we've seen facilities like this that offer something that we didn't have somewhere else. That's how I see the difference. This is meeting a smaller need. If you want to have that 15 to 25 or 30 person gathering, but it's done nicely, and you maybe feel more intimate in a nice setting, this is the place to go. You don't want to go to the sterile library necessarily to have your grandfather's 80th birthday party. You don't want to go necessarily to Carr Park when you can have this space that feels a little more personal, and you don't have all the children playing in a park next to you who aren't part of your group. This is private. You've paid for it. You've reserved it. It's yours for that time. That's the distinction. We're not offering to give you everything on site in a one-stop shop. If you want to hire McDonald's to bring your food in, we'll call McDonald's. We don't care. We want to offer the space. That is our principal use.
Sorry to interrupt, but you can rent it right now and do everything you just said.
We just want to be able to go outside while we do
know.
it,
So why
which
is-
is ancillary to the principal permitted use inside.
Yeah, so,
And it's already in your
So it's
your
not-
ordinance
yeah.
allows it for any other restaurant or other place serving food and beverage, just not this one because it doesn't have the right name. But it allows for it. It's built into the ordinance. It even gives you all the restrictions. We're just asking you to adopt that section of the ordinance with the restrictions to restrict us.
Got another question,
Oh,
Pat.
Mr. Potter.
Have we heard anything from neighbors? Or have they been, a notice would go out, but we haven't heard a yay or nay?
Statutory notice always goes out, it's published, and there have been, our planning department has received no comments.
Thank you.
So, again, wisecrack before I get into it, but 25 attorneys in a hall talking family law, Tony, that does not sound fun, but it's their own. But anyway, again, I agree, banquet hall, Leroy's, Kuzno, they have kitchens, the food's there. I go to a wedding reception, the food's prepared, whether it's sit down and table service, whether it's buffet style. That to me is a banquet hall. I would consider Sidelines a banquet hall because it's on the premise, there's food prepared that you can get straight from them, and it's prepared on the site. This is not that. There's no food going to be prepared on site. There's no beverages that are going to be sold on site. This is just an event space that you can go and have your graduation party, your kid's first birthday party, Sweet 16, 25 attorneys talking law. I mean, whatever you want, you can have a space like that. And so for that, I am in support of, for the proposed change, what the agent is proposing.
Mr. Potter.
We ready for a motion? Entertain a
Did
motion?
anybody else have anything else they want to
No,
talk
I'm good.
about, add
Said-
questions? Okay,
Just keep-
Mr. Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just keep in mind, you're not approving something, you're interpreting the zoning ordinance. So any motion that's made should be made with a view to interpreting the zoning ordinance relative to the application submitted by the applicant. Hopefully that makes sense to you. But that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing in phase one here. I'm going to give you an example. If someone makes a motion to interpret the proposed use as being a banquet hall pursuant to the zoning ordinance, as the planning department and building department did, then we're done. If that motion passes, we're done. If someone, on the other hand, makes a motion to interpret the ordinance that this is actually a other place serving food or beverages, and someone makes that motion, and that motion passes, then we go on to phase two. And phase two is we need to talk about what the conditions are going to be. And we need to talk about the conditions that are within the zoning ordinance relative to restaurants. So this proposed use really doesn't fit nicely within either, but we've made the determination that it's closer to and is a banquet hall. When you break down Tony's interpretation, and I've looked at this 100 times probably, it says, let me just read it all to you, restaurants or other places serving food or beverages. Let me ask you this question. It'll be a rhetorical question that I'll answer for you. What is a restaurant? A restaurant is a place that serves food or beverages. And then it goes on to say, or other places serving food or beverages. Well, the applicant has said, we're not going to serve food or beverages. You either make arrangements with a caterer, they bring it in, or you bring your own. That's why it doesn't fit really there. And really, does it fit? I think it more closely fits as Jody has determined. So that's the conundrum. They don't have a use variance available to them. They'd have to come in and ask for it to be rezoned. And then it would go to planning, and they'd make a recommendation. It would go to the township board. Rezoning probably is not the way to go because, well, it's already zoned C1 commercial, so you'd have to have a more intense commercial zoning with conditions. So hopefully that helps. Maybe it didn't. Maybe it just served to confuse more, but hopefully that helps with what you need to do.
I can take a stab at a motion. Nobody,
I had a request first.
okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Potter.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to deny the request and interpret the intended use of this facility as a banquet hall as has been interpreted by both our planning department and our building department.
Okay. Any second, any support for the motion? I'll support it. Ms. Rector, do you want to call the roll?
Mr. Potter,
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney,
Aye.
Ms. McCormick,
Nay.
Mr. Trombley,
No.
Mr. Gore.
No,
Motion failed.
Okay, motion failed 3-2. Moving on to item B, I'd like a motion to open the public hearing.
Wait a minute.
We will,
and I,
No, motion failed.
A motion failed. If somebody wants to make
new
an
motion.
alternate motion with another,
Oh, so that didn't
in that phase one.
define it as other uses.
so I'll go ahead and make a motion if we're ready.
Okay, go ahead.
I say that the board accepts the interpretation as presented by the agent. The proposed use are similar in nature as stated in section 400.11017.7. Principal uses permitted, other places serving food or beverages.
Support.
Okay, Mr. Tremblay supports. Ms. Rector, can you call the roll?
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Trombley,
Aye.
Ms. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Potter,
Nay.
Mr. Mahoney.
No. Okay,
Motion carried.
motion carries 3-2. Okay, moving on to item B. I'd like a motion to open the public hearing to discuss restrictions based on what we just agreed on.
I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, Ms. Rector, do you want to give us an analysis?
Yes. Find my paragraph here. All right. The interpretation that the application meets the intent of subsection H recognizes a reduced impact category of operation that provides That provision states in substance that certain barrier requirements of subsection C need not apply to a restaurant or other places serving food or beverages where the owner-operator verifies in writing that the business, 1, does not stay open for business past 10, does not have a wait staff serve customers seated in the outdoor dining area, and does not serve alcohol. The request by the applicant and agent. Section 3, description of proposed use, and Section 4, relevant ordinance framework. Section 3 states the applicant anticipates that any outdoor use will remain ancillary and subordinate to the principal indoor use. Outdoor activity is not intended to function as an independent outdoor business, entertainment venue, bar patio, concert area, or a separate principal use. Rather, any outdoor activity will be incidental to the private functions occurring within the existing commercial building. Section 4, relevant ordinance framework, states that the ordinance sets forth a detailed regulatory framework for seasonal outdoor dining areas, including provisions governing plot plan submission, building inspection, buffering where outdoor dining is visible from adjacent residential property, direct relationship to the indoor area, fire code compliance, hours of operation, parking, noise, lighting, and sound amplification. Also noted of particular importance, subsection H recognizes a reduced impact category of operation. That provision states in substance that certain barrier requirements need not apply to a restaurant or other places serving food or beverages where the owner or operator verifies in writing that the business does not stay open past 10, does not have a wait staff serve customers seated in the outdoor area, and does not serve alcohol. The applicant's proposed operations are consistent with the spirit and intent of the reduced impact framework. The applicant will not remain open past 10, will not provide outdoor wait staff service, and will not engage in organized alcohol service operations. Planning and Building Department interpretation of that proposed outdoor use is the Planning and Building Department's interpretation regarding the requirements of H as noted above. The proposed outdoor wait staff serve customers or serve alcohol as defined in the submitted letter. The owner-operator does not provide those services. However, as noted in Section 3, description of proposed use, foods and beverages may be brought into the premises by customers, guests, or third-party caterers. It also states customers may independently bring alcohol onto the property for lawful private consumption in connection with private gatherings. Therefore, interpretation of food and beverages could be served by those within the outdoor area shall be included for the request and comply with the conditions A through G, including as defined by the applicant, will not stay open past 10. A motion on the interpretation of outdoor dining, seating, ancillary use meets the intent of subsection A as defined by the applicant. Once a determination is made on the outdoor accessory dining and seating as defined by the applicant and agent, principal use is permitted. Restaurants or other places serving food or beverages except those having the character of a drive-in, including seasonal outdoor dining areas as an accessory to restaurants. The board shall move forward and open the public hearing, which has been done.
Okay, Mr. Breskel, do you want to add anything?
I want to highlight just the subsection that we believe is controlling here was intended specifically for these low-intensity uses. The subsection H specifically that sort of reduces the necessary buffering and 6-foot-tall barriers, et cetera. I think it contemplates that when you don't have servers running in and out and you don't have that traditional restaurant wait staff serving alcohol, doing things like that, I understand the interpretation by the departments, but I think it focuses too much on the type of beverage in somebody's hand rather than who's bringing it to them through a wait staff. We're not going to be open past 10, so that one's easily identified. We don't serve alcohol. From the owner's standpoint, it obviously is a lawful thing that somebody can bring onto the property, but it's not going to be served to them. There will not be wait staff out there. We believe that if we were any other traditional modeled restaurant with our suggested parameters, which is we're not going to be open past 10, we're not going to have wait staff serve customers seated in the outdoor dining area, and we're not going to serve alcohol, we would fall squarely within this category. So ergo, we believe that because we are an other establishment serving food or alcohol, we fall squarely within this exception. Go ahead, Jody, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Before we move on to the open public hearing, can I actually read the analysis that I made for the second request instead of?
Oh, I
the-
thought I had you,
I read the
did that already.
proposition.
Oh.
How about this one, where a plot plan has been provided within the packet submitted by the agent? In red, there's what is known as 48 existing marking spaces, and that should be calculated once the use is determined. The existing asphalt driveway, there's a prefabricated canopy, approximately 30 by 20, section 41903 would be accessory buildings. There was no building permit pulled. A split rail fencing and landscaping buffers, section 41912 and 41101.7 does not meet the requirement for outdoor dining and seating by the ordinance of a 6-foot. There was proposed 8 picnic tables, 2 fire pit areas with a total of 14 chairs. A sign, which section 41922, the sign insert changed and there was no permit issued. The dumpsters are existing. They are required to be in an enclosure, and should additional lighting be installed, an illumination plan shall be submitted and reviewed to comply with the requirements of section 41908. And the life safety plan was requested for a change in the use by the building and fire department. Township has received no additional information. And I know the applicant agent has spoke on that. They were waiting for a determination. Per the fence, and the outdoor dining area is situated in such it can be seen or viewed by a person from a residentially zoned or used parcel with adjacent to a property which is for outdoor dining is situated. The owner-operator shall erect a durable and solid barrier wall constructed of architectural and aesthetically pleasing treated lumber or similar type material around the perimeter of the outdoor dining area to provide a 6-foot vertical barrier from the walking surface of the outdoor dining, and shall plant a 6-foot tall natural sound barrier and visual barrier along the sides of the barrier wall provided, which can be reasonably expected to form a continuous sound and visual barrier comprised of evergreen, arborvitae, and spruce plantings. Fences within a commercial and professional business office in a front yard. This property has 2 front yards, shall not exceed 4 feet in height, and shall be restricted to decorative fencing. Therefore, due to the height requirement for an outdoor dining, a fence request variance of 2 feet is required to permit the 6-foot decorative fence to be installed in the front yard. Building roof covered structure. A roof covered structure was constructed to the east of the existing building, which serves as a rear yard. No site plan or building permit was submitted, reviewed, or approved. Per section 400-201 defines yards, a front yard as open space extending from the full width of the lot, the depth of which is minimally horizontally distant between the front lot line and the nearest point of the main building. Therefore, the constructed roof-covered structure is located within the front yard. A variance is required to permit the applicant to maintain the roof-covered structure as presented. The planning and building departments would request, should a motion be made to grant the variance, a condition be that the applicant shall provide a plot plan for review and approval, submitting a building permit that the structure complies with all ordinance requirements and all building code and fire code requirements for a commercial building.
Okay, now I'll ask.
Now I'm good. Sorry about that,
Want to
folks.
add anything?
Has everybody seen what's back there? So I don't have to try to describe it. I mean, it's a prefabricated canopy covering we did not pour the patio was existing. He covered it. It was just covered for shelter from the rain. We understand the need, and I appreciate the planning department's anticipating that we may have to put up a 6-foot privacy fence type structure and asking for that 2-foot variance. It would probably be our preference, it would be our preference to simply keep the existing 4-foot structure that's up. I think here's the last time I saw it. I don't know if there have been plantings done yet to tell you exactly.
I believe there are plantings and then the split rail fencing.
Okay, I knew the split rail had gone up, because we do believe we fall within that less intense and less restrictive category under subsection H. So we weren't initially submitting a variance request to get that extra 2 feet because it's the front yard. I want to make it very clear, I know this is a through lot, I know it has 2 roads, that it is adjacent and abuts, but this is absolutely the rear yard of this particular lot. There's nothing that could be construed as this being a front yard. From a traditional observation, we certainly don't have a driveway there. We don't have a way to turn off of Poseland into our lot, nor are we seeking one. We want to treat it as though that is the backyard for this particular property, and it is at the rear of this particular building. But I do understand how the ordinance has to be viewed, and I appreciate Jody and her department going to great lengths to make sure we could do this all at one hearing. Our goal would be to, and what, I want to highlight what you're looking at here was not intended as necessarily privacy. You can see that there's about a 9 to 11 inch step down on this image that I'm not sure you guys can see, but on the screens that I can see, that was strictly, they have it on their computers. That was strictly a safety measure to make sure nobody stepped off and rolled an ankle or something like that. That's just a protective fence from people going off of that improved concrete patio that has always existed. We're trying to be able to keep what is existing there with this approval. That is our goal. This is the accessory use that we want people to be able to walk out and see, with the exception that I believe there's now a fence there and there have been some plantings that have gone in.
Hey, anything else?
Not from my standpoint. Happy to
Anybody
answer
from the public like
questions.
to step up and speak? Anyone? Anyone at all?
Gail, you don't have to take the long way.
Yes, I do. You don't want to be rude and go across the front. Gail. Okay, first off, I think you opened a Pandora box. Not that I disapprove of the facility. He could easily do what he wants to do and provide what you people think you need to have without the outdoor stuff. That's the bottom line. It could have been done, but without the outdoor. Now we have the outdoor, so now you've opened this box. I'm hoping other commercial buildings that are somewhat like this are not going to turn around and seek to do the same. He was kind of presumptuous if he's put up all new fencing and whatever else, assuming that he was going to be given the permission to do this, in my opinion. I like the idea that you define a front yard for this purpose. There is absolutely no reason that he should not have to abide by all the restrictions for the height of the fence, the buffering, and any of that stuff that needs to take place. And if the goal is to have something small, maybe we could change the hours of operation. Baby showers usually don't go till 10. Bachelor parties, where you get drunk and rowdy, they tend to run that late maybe. He's already got the picnic tables out there. Now he wants to cover them up. Just go inside. Why do you have to have a cover? Just go inside. There's already a roof there. Your fire pits, 2 of them, I don't know. I'm not seeing graduation parties with fire pits, so maybe just 1. And again, he's got to stay 25 feet from absolutely every and any type of structure. That's a fence, a tree, a bush, a shrub, whatever it is. So he has to comply with that, and I don't think he's going to get but maybe 1 in the center. So he's going to have to change what he has there, but he says he's going to be compliant with all the codes. You cannot negate neighbors. And that's the issue. You're in the middle of a residential area. So whatever has to be done, whether they have complained or not, to the benefit. A lot of the properties on the Douglas Road side, some of those are rentals. So they did not get the notices. It probably went to the property owners. And if the property owners don't live there, then the property owners aren't going to care exactly what goes on. Again, the bottom line is that he's not got any control over what's going to happen outside and at any time. Same thing happens with car park. It's in the overlay district. I know for a fact people take alcohol. They do have a small area outside where you can do a game or something like that. There used to be horseshoes and stuff like that. Same thing with Samaria. There's the park right there. There's the pavilion. They go outside. That's just normal. Same thing with Sidelines, and Sidelines had a huge issue with the neighbors that were around it, with the noise and whatever, and he's not going to control that. So what does put in the control is whatever rules you guys put with him. It would be nice if he would consider changing his times. It would be nice if he would be obligated to have to put up every and single obstacle possible, define that as the backyard, put the parking lot in the front yard, and do what you have to do to protect the neighbors. But that's the bottom line. He could have had this, but he didn't have to have the outside. So you've opened up Pandora's box, so we'll see here what happens. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing nobody else, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing?
Support.
Okay, Ms. McCormick supports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Okay. You want to come back up? Anybody have any questions or concerns you'd like to state to Mr. Breskel? Do you have any response?
To the public.
Yeah. Okay.
So my more of a question is probably towards Phil. So I like all the restrictions are in there and not stay open past 10 o'clock. I've never been to a bachelor party at a hall like that, so I don't think that's an option. It does not have wait staff and all those, but can we add, Phil, no outdoor barbecues, so they're not preparing food on site, and no food trucks, so that would be a concern for me because I would consider that preparing food on site.
You, you can add any reasonable condition that you feel would be appropriate for this type of facility.
Okay.
I think
So the
banning,
answer is yes.
banning alcohol would also fit into this as well.
I'm sorry.
Banning alcohol for people to bring in their own alcohol. Prohibit that.
Prohibit people BYOB?
For outdoor or indoor use or both?
Both, on the property.
I mean, it'd be just like the other halls or places that you can rent if people think for 1 minute that there's not alcohol at graduation parties at Carr or Samaria Park. Maybe some, but with Gail, there's beverages somewhere, unfortunately. I wish people would follow the rules, Mr. Breskel, but it's the nature of the beast.
I'm hesitant to, the reason I'm hesitant on the alcohol issue is that that is a Michigan Liquor Control Commission issue. So,
Correct, but if the facility doesn't have any licensing from LCC, how would it be allowed on site?
well, and you raise the issue of a one-day permit, and those are available from liquor control. I would say that any and all liquor control rules would need to be followed for events and gatherings.
So if they were to bring it on site, they would have to get the one-day permit from LCC?
I'm not going to go as
Or
far.
whatever they would require.
Whatever the Michigan Liquor Control Commission would require for events such as this. If you rent a building and you're going to bring your own food or you're going to have it catered by a third party and you're going to bring your own alcohol because the establishment itself will not furnish or serve alcohol, whatever rules are applicable from the MLCC would have to be followed. And as we sit here, I don't know what their rules are. I don't know that they would require a one-day permit. I think they would require a one-day permit if alcohol was going to be offered for sale.
If it's sold on site, correct.
If there's tickets that are going to be purchased, and then you can redeem those for beer, there would need to be a permit for that. A permitting process is in existence for that. The question becomes, if you're going to have a family reunion and Uncle Jerry wants to bring 3 cases of beer in a cooler, is MLCC going to have anything to say about that? I don't think so, but I'm not going to say that is the final answer. That would have to be something that I would think that both the owner of this building and this property and the tenant who is going to be the operator of this property would want to check with their liability insurance carrier about and with liquor control to see what the insurance company is going to allow and what they'll insure over for dram shop liquor liability purposes, so that not only is the owner of the structure and the operator covered insurance-wise, but anyone else out on the roadway in the community that happens to get hit by a drunk driver has a source of recovery, other than Uncle Jerry may have nothing, and he's brought all the beer and supplied all the beer. So that's where I see the problems coming in.
My assumption is that people can BYOB without a license.
Pretty fair
That's
assumption.
my guess, but I know if you sell it, you probably have to have a permit, but you're not going to be selling, and the people you're renting to can't be selling it. Right, so no beer or alcohol sales permitted, right?
No, there's absolutely no beer or alcohol sales permitted. There's not
No
going
matter by anybody, but the people renting can't do it.
excuse me. And I think I hadn't said it out loud, but it's our intention to not violate any of these laws that already exist. I mean, we're not coming in thinking, oh, I can't wait to go violate the liquor license laws.
You won't be there at 9 o'clock, when this is going to happen.
I meant from the sales standpoint that you were referencing, not, I also can't stop Uncle Jerry from bringing his cooler. But
We're selling it.
I think that the contractor, whatever agreement is going to be entered into between the operator and the ultimate tenant who's going to take the space for that day, is going to spell out the rules and regulations that they have to adhere to, of which would be, there's absolutely no alcohol sales here because we don't have a liquor license. That's more than a reasonable thing to suggest. I don't know whether or not banning the presence of alcohol on the site, I mean, to me, that seems too restrictive as compared to complying with all available laws and liquor control rules, just for that exact reason. I'm not sure how that gets policed, but that was my initial thought when I heard the comment. I think we're setting ourselves up for something that's going to be really tough to manage when we talk about what's being smuggled into a cooler by the party who's reserving the space.
Mr. Chairman, and I think maybe this is where Jacob's coming from, because as a board, we're charged with the responsibility of looking out for the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents.
Peace.
So, having said that, which is very important, and having done this for a long, long time, the number one complaint that will come from outdoor use here will be noise. Noise, disorderly conduct, though, and sometimes those go hand in hand, sometimes not. It could be amplified music and everybody's acting appropriately. But when you introduce alcohol at an event, the likelihood of noisy or raucous or disorderly behavior increases dramatically. So I think that's where Jacob's coming from with his suggestion. And Tony, your clients, I'm sure, recognize that. And that's why I think you have to take a look at all of the other things you can do to try to minimize the impact off this site. This site has 2 front yards. Yes, we would look at it. By definition, it has 2 front yards. You have Douglas in the front, you have Poseland in the rear. Everybody looks at Douglas as being the front yard. That's where the parking is, that's where the front door is. But there's a public road to the east, and that creates a front yard. And that creates a vision situation for the people who are on Poseland and whose homes face the west toward this facility. Yes, it looks nicer now, but let's do all we can do with reasonable conditions to minimize off-site impact for those who choose to live or live nearby, whether they're renters or they're owners. It doesn't matter. They're residents. So if that, as Jody has suggested, if that means a 6-foot fence and arborvitae's and plantings, you have the authority to do that. I'll be quiet now.
Well, on that point, I didn't want to skip past all the other ones. I think we should take these in order. You know, that it's I'll insist on a 6-foot screening. And I assumed that there will be people abusing alcohol there, and I'm worried about them hitting the road when they left their event. And that was part of my concern about passing the first section of this request, the interpretation. That is what it is. We're dealing with restrictions. I think on the first one, yes, it must confirm that the amount of parking is adequate for the use. Is it, what is there, 43 spaces?
I don't know that we knew what the parking requirement was until we knew what the use was, is one of the issues. The best I'm going to be able to offer you as the applicant agent right this second is an assurance that we're going to comply with whatever the requirements are from planning and building.
I just did a quick count when I was there, and there were a couple, I think maybe 2 handicap spots.
Yeah.
I
We have
think,
to make a decision here tonight on this point, don't we?
well, I think that the applicant on this, the plot plan that was submitted, he shows 48 marked spaces, which I think includes the 2 barrier-free. However, until we see a life safety plan submitted to the building, there was work done inside the building and no building permit was pulled, so we don't know what the usable floor space is. So I can't determine. You can put in the motion if you're looking at parking that it must comply with the usable floor space as provided by the ordinance. And if he can't comply, then he would have to come back for a variance, because otherwise it's going to be, I believe, on this north side here of the building, I think that's where they're going to keep the dumpster, and they have to
where it
put some
is.
kind of fencing. So I think that this is the parking that what they have, so it's going to be the 48 spaces, I believe. I don't know where else they could add more parking.
They can't overflow onto the grass. right?
Correct. It has to be hard surface.
And the street.
And I believe they're close on their property line here to even add more parking. But I believe the intent is to leave the dumpster location here. I mean, I can't design
I'll
the
ask the
site.
officers, can they park on the street? Can somebody attend the event and park on the Douglas Road?
No,
I would encourage no street
No
parking
parking
on
in Paul's
Poisland
land
as it's the
either.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
because they're not supposed to.
Clearly not on Douglas
It
Road.
may have to be part of your contract to your clients. Can we request that, like no more than 48 cars, including 2 handicap spots?
No more
How do
than,
we restrict that?
If I could offer my reasonable suggestion, we're going to be subject to many conditions that aren't necessarily completely answered here this evening, or even known maybe this evening through planning, building, fire approvals. I think this board is perfectly situated to require those approvals of us and not delineate the exact nature of what that looks like.
So our motion will be subject to planning's approval on that issue, on the parking? and the
Yes,
lighting?
because the outdoor patio area will also have to be calculated as usable floor space as well as with the fire pits, the picnic tables, and then the usable floor area within.
All right, let's slow down. Picnic tables, that'll be planning?
Those, all that outdoor patio, by the
Fire pits.
ordinance, says that parking, let me get to the ordinance, if you're going to look at the requirements for,
Parking includes all the seating outside. too.
Are you going to send this to planning, or are you just going to be?
it would come through my office with building. We would work when they submit their plot plan. If you look at it, we'll say in there that the plot plan shall include identification of all existing exterior lighting fixtures as well as future and proposed exterior lighting fixtures. The plot plan shall exist usable interior dining room floor area excluding kitchens, bathrooms, hallways, and closets. And it doesn't need to be engineered. It would just be to show the best accurate dimensions. And then at that point, the building official and myself would review it to meet all of those required setbacks, especially for like the dimensions of the building from the structure can't seek a variance from the building code requirements or fire
Is the
code.
footprint within code, that canopy structure and the...
I don't know about the canopy structure because I don't know where a building permit wasn't submitted. I'm not sure if that comply with the requirements for a commercial
600
structure because it would have the public. So until we know what's actually the structure is and how it's structurally sound to the ground, I can't speak on, but that would have to be part of the motion that they would have to provide that information to the building official for review and approval.
Mr. Potter,
And then letter F says outdoor seating area shall be counted in the current parking requirements for the establishment. So I believe by the sketch, there were 48 spaces. I think there were 14 chairs by the fire pit, 8 picnic tables. I don't know how many, I don't sit at a picnic table, how many people sit there.
So that's going to be planning.
They would have
The
to show all
commission
that, and it would
or
have
you?
to be calculated from the planning department and building department. If you're going to require A through H, A through G, that's going to have to be a determination. The applicant is saying they fall under letter H.
I'm trying to figure out what do we have power to do for the client or the applicant tonight. We have to discuss the fence, whether we should offer the 2-foot variance or not.
Yes, because it's a front yard.
Let's talk about that right now. I'm
Yep.
say no 2-foot variance. It's got to be 6 foot around that outdoor patio area. Any conversation, any comments? Gore?
I'm fine with that.
I agree.
But, yeah.
Should it be a fence or should it be arborvitae's?
I believe it says both in the ordinance.
Okay,
The one for privacy, the other for sound.
Correct.
Okay.
Arborvitae's tend to attenuate sound. I think that's why it's in the ordinance.
okay. Does someone make a motion regarding the fence then?
I'll make a motion
Go
to
ahead, Mr.
require a 6-foot, a 2-foot variance in their front yard to allow a 6-foot tall fence
Um,
around the,
So it's a question, I'm sorry. He
Okay.
hasn't given us a formal variance request? How do we handle this?
Yes, the variance request was discussed with the applicant, and the only reason we did it is if, that's why it was a determination, if the interpretation was that was other places serving food or beverages, to avoid them having to come back for another variance they were put on. It wouldn't have been discussed if it was determined to be a banquet hall.
Should we deny the 2-foot variance request and require a 6-foot fence in arborvitae?
The variance request.
The variance is for the 2-foot height because 4 feet is permitted.
He wants 2 feet.
The variance the variance is the township's necessity.
Right.
You need a variance to go from the allowed 4-foot fence to the 6-foot fence you want us to have. That's what the variance is.
Yeah, and you want the 2 feet.
Because it's in a front yard setback.
Because of the front yard.
Yeah.
So we should grant
No,
the
the-
variance,
Grant the variance.
but make it a condition as well, that there be a 6-foot fence. And now you need to talk about what kind of fence and where it goes.
what's the front yard requirement is
4 foot.
4
and-
feet. The rear yard requirement is 6 feet. Our requirement would be 6 feet, even though it's the definition of whether it's in the front yard or backyard. The open area, the open seating area, we're going to require a 6-foot fence.
We're gonna-
So I'm not sure which way the variance goes. They want to leave it at 4
I'm
feet,
wondering
we
how to
wanted
word
it
the
at
motion.
6. Huh?
How to word the motion.
I would suggest that you make a motion, and maybe this is going to be in counterparts, but you make a motion to grant a 2-foot fence variance to require a 6-foot fence around the, I'll just say around the patio area, but I think you'd like to maybe better define where that fence goes and what type of construction it is, because you can condition it. So what I'm suggesting is you make a motion to grant the variance, and then you also condition it on a 6-foot fence being erected. Does that make sense? It's belt and suspenders, but you need, Tony's right, you need the variance because we're in a front yard setback.
Right.
But you want to condition it on there being a 6-foot fence, because when it comes time to go to the planning and building department and before a certificate of occupancy is issued, want to make sure they're going to make sure all those boxes are checked.
Okay, well then,
So currently, if you look at the screen, this is currently where they have their, I believe, where the 4-foot fence split rail is.
I don't think it,
I think the plantings
It's
are
that-
more of a cluster. I don't think I'm not 100% sure. I didn't take any photos when I drove by, because I drove by off of Douglas. But There are some plantings, I'm not sure if they're like how they show them on the plot plan, but if you're so desired, I think to just box in the patio area, I'm not sure how you would do that without doing similar to what is already proposed on
just-
this plot plan.
Can we just say not to exceed what was submitted to us?
Yes, because he is out of the front yard, the road right-of-way, the 30-foot of a front yard setback, so that's why he shows the 30 feet.
We can make it smaller but not larger.
Yeah, he can't go any closer to the road.
Got all that?
Yeah. What I would say, okay, a variance, approve the variance, approve the motion to approve the 2-foot fence height variance to require a total of 6 feet of fence in the, I'm going to call it a backyard, on the 6-foot fence on the east side of the structure of the building to match the outline, the perimeter that's identified on the May 16th, 2026 plot plan submitted by the applicant. Then conditions on that would be, it has to be a 6-foot tall, not sure the terminology, it's
Privacy
a
fence.
solid, oh, here it is. A durable and solid barrier wall constructed of architecturally and/or aesthetically pleasing treated lumber or similar type of material which would provide the visual barrier and arborvitae type plantings also is shown on the May 18th plot plan provided by the applicant to help provide a sound barrier.
Okay, does anyone want to support the motion?
Support.
Ms. McCormick supports. Ms. Rector, you want to call the roll?
We have a discussion. Why is, on the plot plan, why is all the arborvitae plantings are inside the fence except for the south fence?
It's a good point. You want them to be on the inside or the outside?
I want them on the inside.
Okay, so all arborvitae, all friendly amendment, arborvitaes will be planted on the inside along the perimeter.
I agree with that.
Fantastic. Ms. McCormick?
Support.
Okay.
Mr. Potter?
Yes.
Ms. McCormick?
Aye.
Mr. Chombley?
Aye.
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. The sign, did we determine, does he need a permit for that, or is that good to go?
The sign was existing, they just changed the,
He's on your list, so I'm just asking.
Ordinance requires any changes in a sign to make sure it complies with today's sign ordinance. I'm not sure what the height is, if it's located outside the road right-of-way, and then just the insert was changed.
Okay, we'll leave that for your approval later. Is that all right?
Pardon me?
Is that for your approval later, once you get the specifics, since we don't have them?
Should we identify that as something that's required,
We're-
permits required in compliance with permit
We can-
conditions?
you
We'll get
can-
there.
I would require, because I can enforce it, if you don't require it because it's already existing, I would say that they need to at least submit what the renderings are and that you would approve the sign as presented.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we I just lost.
Approve the sign as presented.
Approve the signage as presented and to comply with ordinance.
support.
Okay, Ms. Rector,
Any further discussion?
no further discussion?
Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Trombley?
Aye.
Ms. McCormick?
Aye.
Mr. Potter?
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, the dumpster. What about the dumpster? Do we have to put an enclosure around it? Because there's not one there today.
Yes.
Is that ordinance?
It is ordinance.
Required to be in an
Okay.
enclosure.
So does somebody want to make a motion about a dumpster enclosure that complies with 400.1907.7?
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
Discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rector?
Made second?
Potter.
Potter.
One thing that, I don't know, maybe we want to amend is that the dumpster enclosure is of the same material as the fence surrounding the property.
I'm fine with that.
I like that.
Okay, Mr. Potter, do you
I'll,
second?
I'll accept that, or did I second it?
You did, so that's.
Okay. I approve that.
Hey, Ms. Rector?
Yes, Mr. Gore?
Aye.
Mr. Potter?
Aye.
Mr. Trombley?
Aye.
Ms. McCormick?
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, should parking lot lighting be required in either front yard? Submit plan for review. Is that for the planning department?
That's only if they install additional lighting. If they install anything additional, they would be required. It's just for reference for the applicant.
They'll come to you if they want to do that.
No motion needed for that.
Okay. And the life safety plan? Is that a part of planning?
I would make a motion to require a life safety plan be submitted to the building and the fire department because it has been requested and not yet submitted.
Okay,
Contingent
so
upon this review.
we can bunch all of these up. So confirming that the amount of parking is adequate, the existing asphalt driveway pavement extension area is acceptable. The 30 by 20 canopy requires a building permit and yet to determine if it's within the bounds of our accessory building ordinance. The 8 picnic tables, 2 fire pit areas with 14 chairs, and the sign, if a permit is required or if it's within ordinance. Life-saving plan, and then parking lot lighting, should they decide to add more. Can someone give me a motion with all those things in it to be presented to the planning department and building department for their approval?
It sounded like a motion.
Can I make a motion? Am I allowed to as chair?
Technically, you would pass the gavel and make the motion. I would prefer that someone else make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
And before you make the motion, I'm recommending that you have in the motion that all of those items comply with the ordinance to be approved by planning and building. It's not just enough to make a presentation. They have to comply with the ordinance. And I'd also like you to put in that motion that no certificate of occupancy will be issued until there's full compliance with all those items with our ordinance. And that includes the National Fire Code as adopted by Bedford Township, the Uniform Building Code as adopted by Bedford Township, all state and our local ordinance. Sorry to make it difficult, but I'm trying to wrap it all up here for you.
Okay. I can make a motion that the occupancy permit not be issued until the following items comply with the ordinance, including a life safety plan submitted to the building department and fire department. The parking, the amount of parking available complies with what's required. Once the occupancy, the allowed occupancy is determined, prefabricated, the existing prefabricated canopy, building permit application is submitted and I think I already covered that it complies with the ordinance, so it includes the prefabricated building canopy, outdoor seating, fire pit areas, the requirement of an illumination plan to be submitted and reviewed and be in full compliance with the ordinance should additional lighting be installed, any requirements of the National Fire Code or the Uniform Building Code
As adopted
As-
by Bedford Township.
as applied by or approved by, what did you say,
As
terminology?
adopted by
As
Bedford
adopted
Township.
by Bedford Township. That's all I remember.
I'll add a friendly amendment to add approval for the existing asphalt driveway pavement extension area, that a building permit is secured for the canopy that was built, and that all accessory structures are within the ordinance as provided.
I'm fine with that.
Support.
Ms. Rector?
Ooh, the enclosure around the dumpster.
Yeah, the enclosure around the dumpster.
We already did that.
We did?
Well, did you include it in your motion?
We did that.
I didn't, but did we do that before?
Matching the fence.
All right.
All right,
Ms. Rector.
Mr. Potter,
Yes.
Mr. Trombley,
Aye.
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Ms. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Mahoney.
Aye.
Motion carried.
I think that's it. Thank you for coming.
Well, real quick, because I wanted in there, and I don't know, do I have to add, because I wanted no backyard barbecues or outdoor barbecues or food trucks.
Oh, you might want to make a motion on that.
So I would like to make the motion that, let me pull it back up here.
I had no backyard barbecue, no food trucks, and no outdoor past 10.
That's what I was getting ready to. So
That's what Mr. Gore
So-
said first, but we never made a motion on it.
I'm going to make a motion that we include that the business does not stay open past 10 p.m., not have wait staff to serve customers seated in the outdoor dining area, and does not serve alcohol, and there are no outdoor barbecues permitted or food trucks permitted.
Support.
Okay.
Okay, well, I thought earlier we talked about sale of alcohol. But if somebody brought beer,
Right, and
is that permitted?
Complying with.
does not serve alcohol, so sale. I mean, if somebody brings, like, talk about Uncle Jerry bringing a cooler,
Or a keg?
that would be permitted.
Is a keg permitted?
Mr. Goldsmith has a, oh, I thought you were going to make comment on the sales.
No, I think you mentioned no alcohol sales, and
No
we want
sales.
that in there.
Yes.
Period. No alcohol sales.
Sales.
Yeah, so use the word served, that's what I
Okay,
was.
I'll amend that to sales.
Perfect.
You supported Mr. Tremblay?
I do, but I have a question for Mr. Goldsmith first. Do we want to be that restrictive on sales if a tenant, I mean, I'm sure everybody in here has been to a corporate event and they bring in a mobile bartender and typically they're getting a one-day license for that. I mean, this facility is designed as basically a corporate event venue or a smaller venue. Would that be too restrictive to say no alcohol sales?
It would be. That would restrict that. So if you want to make an exception for a license that is obtained through the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for a one-day event or a two-day event, you can make that exception.
I think that would be fair to the tenant if you would be good with that as an amendment.
I'm okay with that as amendment.
You know, this isn't a restaurant, right? But they have to have a license.
Yep. I support.
Any other discussion? Ms. Rector?
Mr. Gore,
Aye.
Mr. Trombley,
Aye.
Ms. McCormick,
Aye.
Mr. Potter,
No.
Mr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Motion carried.
I can bid you a good evening.
Anything else, Phil, that we've missed?
I don't think so.
And I just hope it'll be another 6 years before I see something like this.
No, you had a good discussion, and I think you sufficiently picked it apart, and that tells me that you have the public health, safety, and welfare at the forefront. So you're giving the applicant an opportunity here, and if the applicant holds true on their promises, we wish them nothing but success, but we also want them to recognize that they're in a residential zoning district, so respect the neighbors.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your
Good night.
time this evening.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, public comment. Anyone? Anyone at all? Oh, hey.
Anyone?
King.
Anyone?
Why should we go home early, right? Okay, first off, I can see where they need to have something like this, but if you rent car park, it does say on the permit, no alcohol, period. It's plain no alcohol. So it kind of covers the townships behind. That is something this owner could do in his permit process. The other thing that you may want to, but if, like Jody says, if planning's going to have the big hammer on this, then I want to make sure that I'll be there, because they should not have any parking at all off Powsland. And you know how they are. They're going to pull in across the back fence, throw me a beer, and there they'll be. So there should be no entry at all of any kind off of Powsland per se. And to Mr. Potter's question, I'll bet you the fence is on the line. And so the arborvitae on the south side is probably outside of the property line. And of course, now we have a fence permit. So they will have to be, somebody will be paying attention to how they put that fence up. But I'll bet you 2 bits, that's why the plantings on the other side, so that the neighbors don't see the fence, which may be a good thing, but whatever. What I do want to comment on, however, is I believe there is a need for a food truck ordinance. We have had some issues with food trucks just pulling up and parking in a parking lot and serving, hoping to make a quick buck. They do it at Lewis and Alexis. They just pull their little Mexican truck in there and they flip their tortillas and whatever else right there in that plaza. So the question is that Bedford Township, from what I've been told, I had some people voice a concern. I was not prompted to do this. I had some other people ask and inquire about it as to whether or not there is an ordinance, and should there not be one. They do have to be inspected, but if they're not going to follow any rules, then I would question whether they have been inspected. And of course, we've all got the big bug running around Michigan, big time here, from food, and some of that comes from your cilantro. Some of that because this is what they irrigate the crops with. So your farmers market and all these areas, you need to be very, very, very cautious, in even your grocery stores, because this is where it is. They irrigate with sewer water. So that's where you have to be concerned. But I think that the township needs to have, this has become like a case of measles. They're just popping up all over. So I think the township needs to put in place, and if you need to have the township board, we have Mr. Gore right here that could take that issue to the board to get permission for you guys to put one together, because I think it's needed.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to board staff comments. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Gore. I always think go left or right.
Again, and I've said this before, even on the last 4 years, this is a great board. We always don't see eye to eye, but I love the conversation. I love hearing everybody's opinion. Everybody gets along, so I really enjoy it. So thanks for, I know it's a long night, but thank you for everybody. I listened and I heard what you had to say, and go USA today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
started.
Yeah, it
Mr. Tremblay.
Good discussion tonight. Thank you, Mr. Goldsmith, for all of your input and assistance along the way. I know this was a new thing for myself, and I'm sure many on the board, so we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ms. McCormick.
Same, thank you, Jody and Mr. Goldsmith. I know this was a lot to put together, so you did a good job.
Ms. Rector?
First, I would just like to address if I have permission from the chair.
By all means.
Okay. For the application that was just granted, it will not go to Planning Commission. It will come to the Planning Department and to the Building Department for the administrative reviews to make sure it complies with all the requirements. If there was to be a driveway off Poseland, it's a platted subdivision, they'd have to get a permit from the Road Commission. At this time, there is not a requirement for a fence permit. We took that to the Township Board. They determined to not require a fence permit. So I just wanted to give those clarifications because those were questions. Also, we are working on a food truck ordinance. It has been brought to our attention that we do not have one that actually regulates food trucks. We have one that has been from 1970 something about ice cream trucks, which still doesn't comply with what we want to look at for food trucks. But as we look into it, we find other communities and it becomes an issue. How many food trucks? Does it have to be with the special events? And who does it go to? What's the fee cost? So we are looking at them. We are trying to work at it. We're looking at trying to make it a general code. It does not come to this board. If it's a general code, it will just go through the Township Board. Otherwise, if it became an ordinance, it would have to go through the process of a public hearing. So we are looking at options. We are trying to get something in place to require at least permission from mainly from Monroe County Health Department to make sure they are registered with Monroe County and that they do have a health department and fire code requirements to make sure they are compliant with all fire code regulations for setting up and tearing down. Other than that, deadline is next Monday, the 13th, for the next BZA meeting. At this point, no request yet. Have a good evening, and thank you for your hard work tonight. I really appreciate it. It was a struggle trying to get all the information, getting everyone something new. It's only the second time I've been in through an interpretation as well, so I appreciate everyone's hard work tonight for that project.
Thank you, Ms. Rector. Mr. Goldsmith?
I've said enough.
Okay. Ms. Ingram? Okay, Mr. Potter?
The only thing I have is thank you, Mr. Gore, for allowing me the first crack at a motion on item number A. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. This is a tough issue. It's good to talk things out, see where we're all coming from. We all have the best interests of the township at heart. Ms. Keene, I always appreciate your input. You always show up. I appreciate that. Just want to let you know that. We don't always see eye to eye, as you know, but thanks for your involvement. Mr. Brasco, it was nice meeting you tonight, and appreciate you coming out. So that's all I have. I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.